ANNOWorx is a tool that allows you to annotate your piping drawings. So whether it's an ortho, elevation, 3D isometric view, we allow the product to go into the model and grab information such as line numbers, equipment information, steel information. The great thing about this is it is synced with the model. So if the model does change, you'll be able to go back in and just sync your annotation with the model. One of the steps clients go through sometimes is just generate all their plan drawings really quick, throw some annotation on there, and then as they get line numbers or valve information, they can always go back, add that to the model, and then just sync the drawing and reprint it and be ready to go. With AnnoWorx, we do give you quite a few format options. So we'll show you some of the annotation components that you can pick from for each of the items, whether it's equipment, steel, or a piping component. But without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right in and take a look at the out-of-the-box model. So this is just the plant model that Plant 3D comes with, very simple sample model. And I've opened up one of the plan drawings that we're working with here. Once you've got that open, you can go ahead and launch ANNOWorx. It's a simple command line, just ANNOWorx, and it'll open up this palette for you. Once the palette is open, we've got 5 options here. Fairly easy to kind of figure out which one each one of these do. We've got tag line with an elevation. We can go through and just tag any component. So whether it's, you're looking for valve information, a tag on the valve, or support tag information. Maybe you need to annotate all your reducers, whether it's eccentric or not. All that information we can go ahead and grab using this tag option. We also allow you to tag equipment and tag steel. And each one of these options does give you the ability to choose between just a label with a line, and a leader. So each one of these we drop in as an MLeader, and then you've got your different styles to work with. These MLeader styles are completely customizable. If you guys would like to adjust them to fit your needs, go ahead. We give you the file to do that, modify them as you need to, and then we'll read that information as we go through there. But to demonstrate, you just simply select one of these guys up here, and then come into the drawing area, grab the component, and pick a point where you'd like the annotation to be dropped. You'll notice on this one, we've got the full line number according to my standards for my drawings. So I'd like to see the size, I'd like to see the service, the number, and then the specification itself. If we choose a different tag area, if I come over here and tag this line, you can see if I drag out from here, it's using a different system. So if you wanted to just have a particular information come up on the line number annotation itself, you can distinguish the two with these 2 buttons and change it up as you need to. To tag a component, I'm just going to come down and grab this valve number here. Drop that in. And we'll just do one of each of these to kind of give you a rough idea of how they work. But pretty straightforward. Pick a steel component. If I try to pick something that doesn't quite line up with it, it's not going to be able to grab all the information that it's looking for. So make sure you do pick the proper component that you're going with. And so now we've annotated one of each of these. And like I said earlier, this can be done at the beginning of the project, the end of the project. And as things change, you can always go back and synchronize this information. So let's jump into the model and start updating some of this data that we've worked with. This valve right here is the one that we grabbed the tag information. You can see that it's empty in this case. So let's go ahead and fill this out. We can also go through and modify parts of the line number, update that. So if for some reason this line needed to change services, you could go through and change that information, number changes, whatever. I'm just going to do a manual override. So we're not going through the whole process of changing all the components. We'll just change a few parts and pieces that we're working with here. This one is the one that we elevated or annotated the elevation. So let's go ahead and drop it down 12 inches. We've got a revision from the field saying the steel's been moved down. So any of this information we can go through and fill out just using the simple Plant 3D palette and modifying this information. I am grabbing this long description here, so let's just add in a new long description, have something a little bit different. I think the final thing that we touched on here was the tank. In the original annotation that I did, it should have shown me the tag and a description. So here is my tank description. That should have showed up in the previous run, but nobody filled it out at the time of design. So now that we've got that information in there, same as any plan drawing, you got to save the model, go back in, and whether you're using the orthographic view or just a simple XREF, you do need to update this. I apologize, the ortho update button is on my other screen. I can't seem to update that, but it's got the little 5 tick box that it's going through, updating the orthographic drawing for me. That part is finished now. And once we've done all of that, all we have to do is now synchronize our annotation with the model. We've gone through and decided to color anything that changes. So if you do see the color in here, now we can draw our rev cloud around this, or whatever your guys' standard is. It hasn't gone out for issue. But we will notify you of any component that has changed. Let you see that information. Once you've decided to either accept all of them or go through and add your revision clouds, you can always just change the color back to white, and now it's ready to go for the printing side of things. Another aspect of this that's really handy is if a line has insulation on it, it's going to pull that insulation information automatically. So in this case, we don't have any insulation on the line, but if I tag this line right below it, using the same formatting, I now have the entire line number plus the insulation information appended to it. So if the insulation is empty, we're not going to show this extra dash and dash at the end of there. We're just going to completely leave the insulation off. But if there happens to be insulation, we'll go ahead and grab that for you as well. So now that we've kind of demonstrated, we can annotate the drawings, sync it with the model fairly quickly. Let's go ahead and just take a look at our settings here. So it's going to be loading up, and we can take a look at all the information and fields that we have available to us from Plant 3D. This has been updated to work with Plant 3D components. So if you used ANNOWorx previously, you will notice some additional fields in here that are available for Plant 3D that aren't available with the previous product we were working with. So you can go through and grab that information, put it in there. We do have for the different buttons, we've got the different fields that you can fill out. For example, if we go down to component, Plant 3D objects have quite a bit of information we can pull if you want to get into the actuator information, the cut length, design pressures, flange, insulation, all that information will show up for you. So pick and choose what you would like to annotate on these objects, and once you start clicking the button, we'll read this information. Same thing with steel and equipment. We've got that information in there for you. Back to the insulation side of things. So you'll notice my line number up top. I've got my size, service, line number, and specification. That's what's allowed me to pull in the 4-inch FG 1039 CS with the dashes in there. We also give you the ability to do underscores, parentheses, very simple characters, spaces, or even line breaks if you want the item on another line. And if you check the box down below, append insulation, if it is found, you'll get the availability of grabbing the insulation thickness, type, and trace type as well. So what happened down below here, we found insulation, and since this box was checked, we filled that out automatically for you. So those are our settings, and this is how you would go through and annotate one of your drawings. Fairly simple process for any project, but it is very time consuming. So you've got the ability to go through and annotate all of this information right off the bat, and then have somebody come back and fill it in later for you. ANNOWorx is definitely the tool for you in that. There are a few other buttons up top here that we can work with. Lock or unlock your viewports if you're deciding to work through a viewport on this. Of course, the synchronize button, make sure that we're synced up with the model or the ortho view. You can insert a constant, so if you wanted to go through, type specific information that you want to come in at the end of the line number or in the middle of it or wherever, you can type that information in here and add it into the annotation itself, and it'll stick around every time we go through an update with the rest of the information. All of our annotation is based off of a MLeader style that you guys can modify, as I said earlier, and it's also based on your current text style. So if you go through, set up your current text style to the correct font and text type, that is what we're going to read through on this information. These are MLeaders, as I mentioned before, so if you want to go through, align all of your MLeaders to a specific location, give you the ability to do that as well. And then finally, making sure that all of your annotation goes back to the correct layer that you had specified in the settings. So let's jump back into the PowerPoint and make sure I've covered everything. Talked a little bit about the annotating of the drawings, syncing it with the model, and the format options.